Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Saturday broadcast. As usual, we're here to answer questions that you may have about your meditation practice or challenges you have in your life relating to your mental and spiritual well being. So, if you have questions, you can post them anytime in the chat. We'll spend the first 15 minutes in silent meditation, giving everyone a chance to ask questions and giving us a brief opportunity to collect ourselves and to bring our minds to the present moment. So we'll be back at 15 minutes after the hour to start answering questions. All right, that's 15 minutes. From here on, we will begin to ask and answer questions. So if you have any questions, you're welcome to continue to post them in the chat. We'd ask that the chat be reserved only for questions from here on. Anything else will just be removed, just to keep it focused. If you don't have a question, just close your eyes. Stay mindful.
Thank you, Bhante. We do have questions. How can I be mindful without wanting or expecting a future benefit? I often find noting unenjoyable, but my desire for future benefit is why I do it.
Well, I would recommend you to consider somewhat of a change in perspective. That the fact that you find the noting unenjoyable is interesting, is of interest, and is important. The fact that you find anything unenjoyable, it's important. And so the perspective you're describing is one of looking for enjoyment. And the implication here is that something in the future will be enjoyable. But that attitude is problematic. And in fact, you're seeing, though you don't quite realize it, you're seeing how problematic that attitude is because you're suffering from it. You're not getting what you want. And this is very clearly what the Buddha described as suffering, not getting what you want, getting what you don't want. When what you wish for, when your wishes are unfulfilled. And that is only possible when there is wishing, when there is wanting. So the Buddha said the cause of suffering is our craving, our desire for enjoyment. And that's a part of what mindfulness helps you see. So that you're seeing it is important, and it's important that you make the leap, make the move to start noting your desire for future benefit, your lack of enjoyment, which is probably the opposite, which is aversion or disappointment, disliking, boredom even could be. All of these things are interesting and important because they're what's causing you suffering. They spring from desire, from craving, from partiality. So mindfulness helps you see that, helps you see how stressful that is, how unpleasant it is. And as a result of seeing, you naturally let go, you naturally disincline towards it. That's the power of wisdom. You don't have to fix. You don't need some future goal. You just have to see your present reality clearly. And the goal, which is freedom from suffering, peace, happiness, comes by itself as a result of letting go, not as a result of getting something you enjoy.
What, roughly, should be the proportion of time between practicing meditation compared to reading or listening to the Dhamma?
I don't know. Off the top of my head, I want to say something like 2 to 1. 2 hours meditation, 1 hour study. Seems reasonable. Maybe 3 to 1, I don't know. It's not really about time, is it? It's about quality and focus.
I may soon get a job where I drive long distances for many hours. What is the best way to stay mindful while driving, while still maintaining road safety? Is noting driving too ambiguous?
No, it's not. It's not terrible. I mean, it's too. It's a little too vague or general, you might say. But for ordinary daily activities, it's okay. It's something. You can also note things like sitting and seeing and hearing and all that. You do have to be careful when you're driving because it's easy to start to get drowsy. Now, in meditation, this can happen anyway, especially when you're also engaged in other worldly activities outside of it. Meditation can become overwhelmed by drowsiness. So when you start to be mindful driving, you can fall asleep at the wheel. I'd recommend to supplement your practice from time to time with, say, chanting, perhaps, reciting the Buddha's teaching. You can memorize some of the Buddha's teaching as you're sitting. It's not mindfulness, it's not a substitute for meditation, but when driving, you do have to be careful.
Are retreats necessary to progress on the path, or can one progress just as effectively without retreats as a layperson?
Well, those aren't the only two options, right? The only two answers. The truth is somewhere in between. Retreats are not necessary to progress. But no, you cannot practice, you cannot likely progress just as effectively without retreats. Now, a retreat is just a word, it's just a concept. The nature of the difference is the intensity. So practicing 1 or 2 hours a day versus practicing 10 or 12 hours a day. B, having the support of a teacher, daily interviews with a meditation teacher and guidance and progress, being given new lessons every day. And C, having the supportive environment of the meditation center without all the distractions of your home and family and other activities. So a meditation course has a lot of benefits to it. And it's unlikely that most people are going to get the same benefits practicing at home. That being said, it's not as though you cannot progress at all outside of a meditation center, outside of a formal meditation course. So it's not a lost cause.
My living situation isn't great. There's noise from neighbors, TV, music, chatter, etc. With background music, I'm undisturbed, but I can't meditate. Hearing doesn't work as sound is permanent. Advice?
Well, to some extent, you're wrong. You're wrong, and to some extent, that's important because sound isn't permanent. Sound is momentary. It arises and it ceases. But I know what you're saying, and it might sound like nitpicking, but it is an important nitpick because it's not about whether it works. The question I would ask is, what do you mean doesn't work? What are you expecting to happen? This isn't a tool where suddenly some magical thing happens. Hearing works, and in fact, you're kind of pointing out how it works. It works because it does nothing. It works because it shows you that you're not in control. It shows you that the sound is not under your control, and that's why there comes this reaction. It's not working, or it doesn't work, or it would be useless to say hearing, because our mind is fixated on what will be useful, what will allow us to control the situation. So saying to yourself, hearing is a change in perspective. It allows you to confront the sound just as it is without needing for it to go away. And you'll see that actually sound is momentary. And that's important because you can become enlightened just saying hearing, hearing. That being said, I do sympathize with words. Sound that is actual speech is challenging, absolutely. It's possible to meditate with it, and if you have no alternative, and as you say, this is your living situation, then I would recommend you really do some hardcore investigation until you can perceive sound as just sound. It's a challenge. And I guess the supportive practice that will allow it, make it possible, is to note the thoughts that come up when you're distracted by what people are saying, the emotions, because you're going to be judging the things people say. You'll like some things, you'll dislike some things. Maybe you'll start to think, oh, these people are talking nonsense, and you'll feel condescension towards them or conceit. I'm better than them, and that sort of thing. All of these things are interesting to see and can be quite useful to see them, to see your own bad habits, how you react to things. You can be frustrated, of course, when you have sound incessant and that sort of thing. So really take it as an opportunity to go to some extent hardcore. I mean, not hardcore instead of in the terms of forcing yourself, but really radical in the sense of trying to experience these things that are so caught up with concepts, people, places, things, ideas, conversations. Try and really get so that try and really see the sound as just sound, and your emotions and your thoughts as just emotions and thoughts. And you should be able to see some benefit. I know in the beginning it's very hard. It's a very hard thing to do when there's noise and people talking and that sort of thing. Not just noise, but the talking. Noise is a lot easier.
I try to be mindful as much as possible during the day using the noting. I notice that whenever I have to talk to my female classmates, I stop noting and lust enters my mind. How can I be more mindful?
Well, it's just practice. I would try and do daily practice. I don't know if you're doing our at-home course. Probably. It sounds like you might be. We might have already done it. You can, of course, be mindful of lust. Of course, often it will take some time to have the presence of mind to actually be able to note it. But over time, it becomes just a struggle where these unmindful states enter and you get distracted and you're no longer meditating. And then at some point you realize it and you start to be mindful again. And then you get caught up again. And so it's just a matter of working at it. There's no magical answer. There are things you can do to mitigate lust, like contemplating the foulness of the body. So that's also useful. Take some time to contemplate the parts of the body, the hair on the head, the hair on the body, the nails, the teeth, the skin, and all the other inside parts as well. Piece by piece, pick it apart, free yourself from lust. But ultimately, just try and be as mindful as you can, and consider that this isn't a short-term practice. There's often a bit of a overestimation that meditators have, where they think this is something that they're going to accomplish in the next week or so, or month, or even year. And honestly, for most people, unless you're dedicated to it, practicing in your room day and night for years, it's for most people going to be something that's going to take lifetimes to be free from lust. Lifetimes. So be patient and dedicated, and you'll see results. You'll constantly see the fruits, but don't fall into overestimation, thinking you've somehow achieved the goal, or you're close, or it should be right around the corner, or disappointment when you haven't reached the goal yet, or that sort of thing. Only look at the quality of your present state and work on that. Don't worry about where you should be or how far you are from being free from lust and so on.
How much sleep is necessary as a layperson? Some say 3 to 4 hours is enough.
Well, it would be enough if you were not living as a layperson. If you were a layperson, say living in a meditation center or a monastery and didn't have a lot of worldly activities. But I would say for most people, 6 is pretty good. If you're doing a daily meditation practice, 6 is doable. Maybe some people can get away with 5, but not really less than that. We recommend 6, I would say, outside of a meditation center.
What is the purpose of life? I have heard it is about finding meaning in life. Can you share your perspective so I can find my purpose or meaning in life?
So life isn't a thing that exists. Life is just a concept, and well, whether that's even relevant or not, things don't have purpose. Does a rock? What is the purpose of a rock? It only that question only has meaning if you're, say, a theist. It only has meaning in reference to an entity. The things only have purpose to someone. So a purpose might be something that a God has a purpose. And so if something has a meaning or a purpose, it has a purpose to them. But that doesn't have any significance in Buddhism, because a God's purpose is no more important than a human's purpose. I mean, maybe you could say a little bit more interesting, because gods are kind of impressive, but not so much. Gods can be very much delusional, and Brahmas, One important aspect of Buddhism, in fact, is letting go of meaning making. Letting go of making things out to be more than they are. It's a core concept in mindfulness practice. It's why we remind ourselves seeing is just seeing. Hearing is just hearing. So it's not just that there is no meaning, it's that the actual idea of trying to find a meaning is harmful, is wrong intentioned. It's going to take you away from reality. Reality doesn't admit of meaning at all. Reality just is. Which is at once kind of terrifying and liberating, because it means you get to choose. What does life mean to you? It's kind of terrifying because we don't really know. We don't really have any direction, and there is no direction. The only solace you can find that might sort of approach, not an answer to your question, but help you find a truth that will pacify this questioning, is to see that there is suffering. In other words, there are things that we don't want. There are things that we try to avoid, we try to get away from. And that reality of there being a sort of judgment, I guess you could say, where we are averse, where we incline towards certain things and we incline away from certain things. There is a stable sort of compass that you can find in regards to getting to a state where you are no longer averse to something, where you're no longer running away from it. I mean, in ordinary terms, where you're no longer suffering. But we only suffer because of our aversion, because of our partiality. And so ultimately it comes down to not having any partiality. But it surrounds this idea of suffering. So you can find meaning, or you can find significance in suffering, because it really does exist, in the sense of us not wanting certain things and wanting other things. And what's interesting about that is the tendency we have to chase after things that cause us suffering. In other words, we're inconsistent. We want happiness, and we don't want suffering. And yet our actions, our speech, even our thoughts lead us away from happiness, away from the things we want, and towards the things we don't want. We think we will find happiness in this way. It ends up only making us more stressed, more unhappy, more sick, more corrupt. And so it's inconsistent. And the solving of that inconsistency or hypocrisy, or it's not quite hypocrisy, but that going against your own best interests is a solid compass, because it really is true. It's something you can really hold on to and say, yes, this is true. I'm doing things that are going against what I'm actually intending. I want this to happen, and the results are not what I want. I want to be happy, but I'm doing things that are causing me unhappiness. And that's one way of describing what the Buddhist path is. Freedom from suffering comes from seeing clearly that you're causing yourself suffering. Your habits, your inclinations are causing you suffering, and thereby letting go of those. So it's not quite a purpose, or if it is a purpose, it's a one you've decided on, but it's a valid purpose. It's a purpose that has grounding in reality, to free yourself from this inconsistency of wanting certain things and attaining the opposite.
Can one see evidence of nibbana in their mindfulness practice to help them feel more confident if committing to the practice?
Not really. I want to. It would be nice to be able to say yes. I don't think so. It's an interesting question, because obviously that would be the best, right? Because nibbana is the goal. So if you could see evidence, well, okay. So I guess that is the where it is at. There is evidence, because it's consistent. There's a logical connection between the present moment results of being mindful and nibbana. But to be honest, it's just more important that you don't rely on the consequences. You don't rely on nibbana or something like that to keep you going. So what you can see, and what might reasonably be described as having something to do with nibbana, is the letting go, or the extinguishing of suffering that you will see as a result of being mindful. And so I immediately said, no, you don't, because I want to caution you to say that is not nibbana, but it's consistent. And it's really enough in that you can see where it's leading by its very nature. The nature of a mindful experience is one that has extinguished the cause of suffering, has extinguished suffering, has extinguished the suffering that would have come about by being unmindful. You can see how you just by being mindful, there's less there. There's something less there. There's an extinguishing. And so through systematic practice and through skillful practice, being able to adapt your practice to every situation, you start to feel and experience a greater and greater sense of extinguishing, putting out fires. And so nibbana, it's translated sort of literally as extinguishing, or being a letting go. Even it can be the idea, not clinging. And you can see that moment by moment, and you see it increase, and you see a greater sense of that. And you don't need nibbana as an actual experience to gain confidence, because you're seeing the progress, you're seeing the benefits in the present moment. The reason why you don't see benefits, and there's doubt and there's worry and so on, is lack of mindfulness. Is anytime a worry might come up, you fall into it, you follow after it. So the nature of mindfulness practice is such that you can take worry, you can take doubt as an object. You don't have to cling to dogma or belief or a future goal of nibbana. You can actually practice relating to worry, learning about it, not rejecting it, but seeing it for what it is, and rejecting it not because it's getting in the way of some goal, but rejecting it because the worry, the doubt, and so on is in and of itself harmful. It's unbeneficial, and you see that. You don't believe it or think it intellectually. You see it directly for yourself. That's what's great about mindfulness. You don't need to believe in anything. You see for yourself directly based on the experience that you're being mindful of.
Can we do meditation at night?
I mean, absolutely, yes, but I just would point out that what's important is whether you can be mindful. So questions about meditation always have this issue that I don't quite know what you're referring to. It's just a word, right? Meditation is just a word, and there's so many things that people call meditation, and not all of them are what I teach. So I'm going to have to assume and limit my answer to the question to what I teach, which is a type of meditation, mindfulness meditation, or vipassana, seeing clearly based on mindfulness meditation. And I don't know if you probably haven't read our booklet. If you have, you probably wouldn't ask this question. So I'd recommend reading our booklet, maybe even doing our at-home course. You'll be able to see what it means to be mindful, to meditate, and you'll start to understand that it's the kind of thing you can really just do anytime, do now. I mean, if I were to quip, I might say, you can't do it at night, you have to do it now. There's only one time. You can't do it at night because it's not night right now. If it's night where you are, then yes, you can do it at night, but you can only do it right now. You can never do it later or in the past.
When meditating and watching thoughts of the monkey mind, that seems like a higher self. What is that? Is it just the mind split into two or something?
It's the past and the present. So what you'll start to come to see is that what you are, quote unquote, watching is just something that just happened. It's always going to be something that just happened. And so there's the experience, and then there's the contemplation of it, or the memory of it, the moment later. Mind is not an entity. Mind is moments. So you can see that because that moment where you talk about watching, that moment where it seems like you're watching, was a moment that is gone now, right? That moment of watching is already gone. So it's something that arose and ceased. And that's the nature of reality. Higher self is just an idea. It's a meaning that you give to it. But the nature was that experience of watching, which was momentary. So the mind is not split in two, it's split into moments. The mind in Buddhism is a moment. A mind lasts a moment and then ceases. And then a new mind arises.
Is Sotapatti Phalla attained at the same moment as Sotapatti Magga? What is the view in the Mahasi tradition?
Well, there's no view in the Mahasi tradition. Mahasi Sayadaw was a Burmese monk, and there's no way that he would have an answer other than the Orthodox Burmese, Orthodox Theravada answer, and it would be the same answer you get from any Orthodox Theravada monk anywhere. So the answer is not going to come from the Mahasi tradition, it's going to come from the Orthodox Theravada, which is that Sotapatti Magga is one moment, and Sotapatti Phalla is a moment right after Sotapatti Magga, and it can be multiple moments after Sotapatti Magga. It can also occur without Sotapatti Magga. Further, because after one has attained Magga, okay, well, let's explain exactly what these terms mean. Sotapatti is the attainment of the stream. So a sotapanna, we call someone who has attained the stream. It means someone who has experienced cessation, experienced nibbana for the first time, is free from sakkaya ditthi, view of self, is free from silabbata paramasa, which is practices and observances and rules. So refraining from things and undertaking things that are outside of the practice. So wrong abstentions and wrong practices that don't lead to enlightenment, thinking they lead to enlightenment, and freedom from doubt about the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. So that's a sotapanna. And that comes the first moment that one has the experience of cessation. And so that first moment of it is called Sotapatti Magga. The next moment of it has the same characteristics, but it's different because it doesn't have the power to turn you into a sotapanna. So it's really just a technical distinction. That first moment can only ever happen once. Why? Because the next moment of the same thing, it's already happened. It's already done its job. So it's likened to, the texts say it's like if you have a fire and you pour a pitcher of water over the fire is extinguished. So you take another pitcher of water. So the next pitcher of water, if you pour it on the fire, can it extinguish the fire? No, because the fire is already extinguished. But the water is the same. So Sotapatti Magga and Sotapatti Phalla have the same qualities, but they never can be the same moment. The Sotapatti Magga has a different name because it's that first time a person, the first moment of the experience. And the next moment is Sotapatti Phalla. So if later on the same meditator, now a Sotapanna, reattains that same state, it will not be called Sotapatti Magga ever again. It will always, each moment will be called Sotapatti Phalla. Phalla is spelled with one L, by the way.
How does one respect and honor his or her teacher?
Well, the best way, of course, is practice. The Buddha said, Yoko ananda bhikkhuva bhikkhuniva upasako va upasika va Dhamma anudhamma patipanno anudhammachari samiji patipanno anudhammachari so tathagatang sakaroti karukaroti manyeti pujeti paramaya pujaya. So right before the Buddha passed away, people came with flowers, candles, and incense, and respected the Buddha, paid respect to the Buddha. The Buddha said, this isn't the way these are fine and nice, but this isn't how you truly respect a Buddha. So this is a Buddha, this isn't quite what you asked, but I think the same thing still applies. The Buddha said, whatever bhikkhu or bhikkhuni or layman or laywoman practices the Dhamma for the realization of the Dhamma, rightly practices, rightly fares by the Dhamma, such a person does right by me, reveres me, respects me, with the highest form of puja, with the highest form of honor, homage. So that, I think, applies. If you practice the teacher's teaching, that's the highest respect. I mean, there are other things that are, of course, important. Respect is something that is a delicate thing and easy to overlook. There's a general sense of being respectful towards someone who is your teacher. I'd say most especially at the time that they are your teacher. If later on you want to go and say bad things about them, that's different. But during the time that they're your teacher, even if you're not sure they're a good person or not, it's not so much about who they are, it's about the position you're in. And it is proper for a student to be respectful towards their teacher. But that's just about being respectful. There is no form that it has to take. It's not at all about the physical or even verbal acts. It's about the state of mind. So for some people, there will be very elaborate sort of ways of paying respect, like offering trays of flowers or candles or incense. It will be bowing down 3 times before your teacher. For Indian people, it will be touching your head to their feet, or in Sri Lanka, they do that as well, touching your head to the feet of your teacher. But none of those are actual respect, right? It's possible to do all those things and still be really bitter and disrespectful in your mind, really doing it without any good qualities. That doesn't actually speak to the qualities of mind. On the other hand, someone might have a simple sort of humble, meek, attentive attitude, but they don't do anything special like bowing down or anything like that. There are some actions and speech that follow from that, and people often will take this a little too liberally and believe that they really shouldn't have to do anything, so that their actions and speech shouldn't need to be any different, just to show their respect. But the thing is, if you're respectful, it's not respect as equals, it's respect as someone higher than you. You put your teacher purposefully higher than you. That's appropriate. And so that involves things like not sitting on a higher chair than them, not interrupting them, not arguing with them. I mean, you can debate, of course. It's important to debate and to question, but to have a deferential attitude where we're not equals having an argument. You either defer to my opinion or you leave. Go find another teacher. Obviously, there's no one keeping you. But it's not appropriate to think of yourself as equal, except in terms of as a being, of course. As beings, there's an equality, and you don't have to put your teacher as higher than you in terms of their qualities, or pretend that they're somehow perfect or something like that. But it's your obligation to treat them verbally, physically, but most importantly, mentally, with respect. I don't know about the honoring so much. That's not a... Okay, so yeah, I mean, you're not asking about whether one has to. So if one wants to honor their teacher, it is good to be attentive, and there are valuable ways. There's value in doing good things for them. You'll see this in the text. I'm not making this up. Like for monks, there are whole duties that a student has towards their teacher. You got to clean their room. You got to take out their chamber pot after they defecate in it. You've got to bring them water in the morning. You got to bring them toothbrushes in the morning. You got to sweep and just do so many things you have to do for your teacher as a monk. Now, none of that is, of course, required of a layperson, even towards a monk, but it's worth considering that these are all very good things, and you could even say obligations. If it needs to be done, you should think of ways. I mean, I always did. I always try. I mean, Ajahn Tong had so many people around him that it was so hard to find any one little thing that you could do for him. But I tried. He used to walk up to chanting on this forested path, and so I would go and sweep. Not only other people did this as well, but it wasn't always swept when he went. So I noticed that, and I would really make sure that it was swept, and I would go early and make sure the path that he was going to walk was swept, that kind of thing, any little thing I could do. So certainly that's appropriate for a student. I mean, it certainly will make you feel better and feel like you feel confident, make you feel good about yourself. It's just such a wholesome thing, because hopefully the teacher is also doing their duty towards you, providing you with the knowledge and instruction that you need to progress.
Until I can find a Buddhist community, are there any reflections that help solitude? My interactions with people condition me, leave me lost in doubt solitude until I watch your talks to bring clarity.
Well, I mean, I guess to kind of sidestep the question, I would remind you to be mindful of the doubt and so on. Community is very important. Practically speaking, I mean, I can talk all I want about how you just practice, you just do the right thing, but without good support and reminders, it's just practically so easy to get lost. So there are online Buddhist communities. We have one. This is an extension of our online community. You can go to our Discord server, which is where most stuff happens. It's kind of quiet, but you can volunteer. There's a volunteer group that kind of gets you more involved. We have a study group that we had this morning. And I know it's not really a replacement, but another thing we have is we have what we call the mentorship mentor program, which is just a means of getting of it's just a meeting that we have once a month to get together people who are trying to build communities in their area. So people who are trying to create Dhamma groups, and it's just a chance for everyone to talk about their successes and maybe share ideas about how to create community in their area, and how to bring people to the Dhamma, like just how to sign people up for courses in our tradition, just for people who are just going to pass along links to our at-home course or share our booklet on how to meditate or that sort of thing. But that doesn't really answer your question about reflections. I mean, reading the Buddha's teaching is going to be a good support for sure. Listening to Dhamma talks will be a good support for sure. There are 5 reflections, daily reflections. You can probably look it up on the internet, just daily reflections. And a lot of people like to chant those every day. We used to have them printed up somewhere. Daily Theravada Buddhist reflections. I'm not sure where you'd find them. If you come and ask on our Discord server, I can probably give you a link to them, or someone else can, I'm sure.
How can you tell that it is time to leave an abusive relationship, especially with parents?
Well, leaving an abusive relationship is an action. It's a worldly action. It doesn't speak to the Dhamma. So how can you tell anything has to relate back to reality? Otherwise, it's always just going to be convention, meaning there's no right or wrong answer. There will never be a right time because those aren't things that actually exist. They're conceptual, and so they have no valid answer. Right and wrong can only relate to ultimate reality. So the right time to leave is never going to exist. The right thing to do at a given time is going to exist, and you're only going to know that based on being mindful. So it's important, on the one hand, to readjust your perspective, and instead of trying to find the answer to a specific question like this, try and become more sensitive to what you should do in any given moment. So right now, become more mindful so that you're more sensitive to the reality of the situation, and more wise in terms of what aspects of the situation are wholesome, what aspects are unwholesome, what actions are going to lead to more wholesomeness, which actions are going to lead to more unwholesomeness. And that will give you your answers. You'll be able to find reasonable solutions. You'll come to see that it's reasonable to leave now, or now it's not reasonable to leave, because on the one hand you're grounded in reality, and on the other hand you don't have to abandon conceptual reality. So there's going to be lots of conceptual concepts, that you can relate back to reality, like people and relationships. Like a relationship, you can relate back to wholesomeness and unwholesomeness and goodness and evil by seeing how if I leave this person, it's going to increase unwholesomeness in this way, or if I stay with this person, it's going to increase unwholesomeness in this way. But you'll see that through being mindful. And it's not, mindfulness doesn't provide answers, or as a teacher, I don't provide answers to questions like this, but I provide you the means to be able to free yourself from such questions. And sometimes the freeing is similar to getting an answer, but sometimes it's also seeing that the question was not valid. So in this case, I think you might find an answer in the sense that you might suddenly realize through mindfulness that now is the time to leave. But it won't be because of a focusing on the question, like a making a list of pros and cons or something. It will be because of a greater mindfulness.
Bhante, we've crossed the hour. There's one more question in Tier 1. Do you have time to answer?
Yeah, go ahead.
How do I remain mindful when I am procrastinating or don't want to do the work?
Well, you be mindful of the not wanting. It's a disliking state. Procrastinating is not really real, just your description. You have to look at why that's happening. And there's going to be some disliking or aversion or boredom or craving for other things, that sort of thing, liking of the feelings of relaxing and being lazy and so on. And you just have to learn to be mindful of those as well.
Okay, that's the last of our questions in the top tier.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your questions. Thank you, Chris and Edit, for your help. And have a good week, everyone. May you all be happy and find peace and freedom from suffering. Sadhu.
Sadhu.